Now, I guess the final game we'll talk about for today, and I'll bring up some other games as well, but Giants Commanders. We'll go to the other New York team. Like, at least with the Jets, like, hey, that was an exciting game, really fun to watch. Fields played well. The Giants Commanders game, there was nothing to take away from that game and say, yeah, this team's going to be competitive. This team's going to be competent. And again, this is the same Giants team that scored 30 plus points in all of their preseason games. And that's why everybody, you can't get too excited. Reality hit me. Reality hit a lot of Giant fans. You can't get too excited with the preseason. You can't. You got to take everything with a grain of salt. Now, I kind of did. But I also just think, the defense is going to be good. I think the quarterback play is going to be better. I mean, the Giants' defense technically kept them in the game. But you could also say the Commanders should have scored more points. This should have been more of a blowout than it really was. And it was 14-6, really. And then, the Commanders scored a touchdown late. Deebo Samuel scores on a little end-around play for a touchdown. How about him? He looked pretty good in the Commanders uniform yesterday. Terry McLaurin and Jane Daniels, they missed on a big play there. That Terry McLaurin would have walked into the end zone for a touchdown, so they missed that earlier. But, the defense kept them in the game, but it should have been a blowout. They got to Jane Daniels. They sacked him a few times. Brian Burns, I think, had a couple of sacks. Abdul Carter, he blocked the punt. Didn't really give the Giants good field position because it still ended up, going back to, the Giants 30, I think it was. But this offense, I had to clean my glasses yesterday that I was wearing because I'm like, is that like, are we seeing Daniel Jones playing quarterback right now for this team? Actually, I say that Daniel Jones, you see what he did yesterday with the Colts? Oh my! They scored a touchdown on every. They scored on every possession. Colts didn't punt. And Daniel Jones was the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, this Giants offense, oh, man. They couldn't do anything. Now, once again, the offensive line was horrendous. Was terrible. Like, I don't care what quarterback was back there. That Commanders front was pressuring Russell Wilson all day long. All day long. And it's just dump offs. There was nothing. A couple times he tried to throw it deep. Nothing. And they couldn't do any. Like, the Jets running the football exceptionally well. Giants could not do anything. There were no holes opening up. Nothing. Tyrone Tracy couldn't do anything. Cam Scatterbo finished with -3 yards. He had a very, social media was posting it, the block that he had on somebody, and Russ was able to complete a pass to Neighbors. That was his only highlight. It was a block. Brian Dable's getting hyped over the Giants kicking a 50-yard field goal. He's getting excited over there. Malik Neighbors and Dable were getting into it on the sidelines. Neighbors was visibly upset with how the offense looked. They couldn't do anything, and it was the first field goal drive, I think, when they finally scored. So they get down towards the red zone, right? They get down towards the red zone, and then all of a sudden they get gifted a penalty, right? Unnecessary roughness penalty on Marshawn Lattimore. Actually, no, there was another penalty. There was illegal use of hands on 4th and goal. That's what it was. That's what it was. And Russ actually scrambled, tried to pick up, the touchdown, tried to score, but he ended up fumbling the ball, but he recovered it at the 2. They went for it. Then there was illegal use of hands on Wise, defensive lineman for the Commanders, used to be, Patriot. So they're at the 1-yard line. They run a play with Membo, who they drafted, right? The offensive lineman. They reported him as eligible. Russ is throwing him in the back of the end zone. 2nd and goal, Scatterbo can't score. Another incompletion, and then they just kick the field goal at the 2. But on one of those plays, you had Darius Slayton wide open in the flat, and Russ didn't see him. And then they finally kick another field goal later to make it 14-6. And then, like I said, the Commanders, got the touchdown towards the end. Giants were in the red zone at the end of the game, at the 3. Had 4 chances, couldn't score. They got down there. They just couldn't. They couldn't punch it in, and that was the same problem last year. They get down in the red zone, can't cash in, can't cash in at all. More of the same from this team. That's why you just cannot get excited. You can't get excited with what this team does. Like, oh, they draft Abdul Carter. Oh, they got their quarterback. Oh, they get bringing Russell Wilson now instead of they shipped Daniel Jones out. Now they got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jaxson Dart. Look at this quarterback room. Oh man, Abdul Carter on defense with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. They got Malik Neighbors. They draft Cam Scatabo. Look at this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The results are always the same with this team. Always the same. Always the same. Now, I was confident because last year, the Giants, had they had a kicker, they would have beat Washington. And guess what? They didn't make the same mistake they made last year. Graham Gano was not out there on the kickoff. Wasn't out there. They had the punter out there. So that was good. So Graham Gano had no chance of getting hurt on the kickoff. But the Giants could have won that game last year. They didn't. And then they lost another close game later in the season. So I thought maybe with this defense, and you would have thought Russell Wilson would have played a better game, that they had a chance. They had no chance of winning this game. No chance. None. It's the same thing every single year. And I think Chris McMonagle on WFAN made a great point. You went into this season now. You had Russell Wilson at QB1. You had Jaxson Dart at QB2. Jameis Winston is the QB3. You're not going to put in Jameis. You're going to put in Dart. And I think that was a mistake. Because I think you make Jameis Winston QB2 and have Dart 3. I think Jameis Winston... Then, if Russ is not doing anything, throw Jameis in. Throw Jameis in. But because now you made Dart the QB2, well, now he's the backup. He's the backup. So now he's next in line to come in. And honestly, it's good that Jaxson Dart didn't go into that game because of how bad the offensive line was. I would honestly, like, if it wasn't Russ, if I knew that's what we were going to get out of Russ, was that, I would have rather had, if we had a veteran quarterback playing, not Dart. If we had a veteran quarterback, I would have rather seen Jameis Winston out there playing instead of Russell Wilson. I'm just saying, with the veteran quarterbacks on the team, would have rather have seen Jameis Winston go out there and throw for 280 and 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions than and that probably wouldn't have happened. Again, the way the offensive line was. I mean, I'm surprised there wasn't a QB change at the half. Not really, but it's a bit of an exaggeration. But that's just how bad Russell Wilson was yesterday. Like, with the Steelers last year, like, again, he's not the same player. I get it. But what we saw yesterday, like, with Pittsburgh last year, like, he at least, like, proved that he can win you games. But then he, of course, went 0-4 towards the end of the year. 0-5, including the playoff game. I mean, he looked like a guy that just, he can't play football at all. Can't play it at all. But again, that's what happens when you come to the Giants. Part of it is just, the Giants, anything they touch, I mean, they ruin. And they made Russell Wilson look like a guy that should just hang it up. That's how bad it was. They could not do anything. And again, that's why I'm happy that Jaxson Dart didn't play, because I would not want him behind this offensive line. But at least with Dart, you could say, well, he can move around in the pocket. Russ can't really do that anymore. That's the only thing. But we'll see. I mean, and they're already committing to Russ for next week. I'm sorry. I said, look, in a perfect world, you have Russ play the whole year. Giants play good enough where they're competing for at least a playoff spot. And then you go to Dart next year. But that's not happening, man. Jaxson Dart is going to start within the first 8 weeks of the season. Maybe even less. That is just how bad Russell Wilson played yesterday. That is how bad that offense looked. And at this point, it's like, what are we doing? What are the Giants doing? Like, you drafted this kid. You want to see what he has? Throw him out there then. Let him learn on the fly. Let him deal with what they don't have at offensive line, because they have not been able to build this offensive line for years. Years. And they've addressed it so many times. But it doesn't matter what they do. The offensive line every year is always a problem. It's always a problem. Like Daniel Jones, now he goes to the Colts. The Colts actually have some good offensive linemen. They actually have decent weapons. They have a good running game. Now, also, the Dolphins are not good. The Dolphins are not good. And we saw that plenty yesterday with how Tua played the 2 interceptions, their defense. But, yeah, of course Daniel Jones would go out and do that. The Giants, they have not been able to build an offensive line for years. That's part of it. And they haven't been able to find their quarterback. And maybe Jaxson Dart is the answer. I hope he is the answer. But let me tell you something. Daniel Jones goes out there and has a good year with the Colts. That's another player the Giants ruined. That's a quarterback they ruined. And you know what? Who's to say they won't ruin Jaxson Dart? Now, Jaxson Dart went to a school that's known for football. With Daniel Jones, he went to Duke. Like, Duke is known for basketball. It's not known for football. All right? I know there was a connection, there with the... But, because with Eli and Peyton, working with the coach at Duke and Jones, obviously. But, no. Jaxson Dart has played a lot of football. Okay. All right. He comes from a football school. All right. It's going to be different. But I have my concerns with the individuals that run this team. That's what makes me fearful for this young quarterback. Because this regime has gone completely backwards. The worst thing that could have happened for them was them winning a playoff game. Because, if they didn't win that playoff game, I mean, who knows what would have happened? I mean, they wouldn't have paid Daniel Jones. And they would have moved off of him a lot sooner. Or maybe they would have been gone a lot sooner because... because then it's like, well, at least they won a playoff game. Well, they haven't done anything since then. They've gone backwards. They had their worst season in franchise history last year. The year before that, they won 6 games. Who knows what's going to happen this year? They might win 0. The way their schedule is. Yeah, it's bad. It is really bad. At this point, again, Russell Wilson was so bad yesterday. I mean... Just put the kid in. Just put him in. Just put him in. That is how fast I flipped on this whole thing. Because I already see it next week. They play Dallas. Like, Brian Dable already named Russell Wilson the starter. I already see Dak is going to be throwing to CD. Pickens is going to have a big game. Jacob Ferguson is going to catch passes over the middle. They're going to run the football up and down. And I don't care that Dallas lost Micah Parsons. That defense is going to get after Russell Wilson. He's going to get sacked all over the place. And they're going to lose, the Cowboys are going to put up 40 points against them. You just know it. And it's Dallas's home opener. Dallas is going to dominate next week. And then after that, you got the Chiefs on Sunday night. And then you got the Chargers. It's a gauntlet. The gauntlet, and this team, and the other thing too is, Like, I felt confident, right? I said, you know what? I think the Giants are going to win this game. But as we're getting closer and closer to Sunday, I'm seeing content creators, I'm seeing analysts, I'm seeing people, in the media saying, yeah, the Giants are going to be better than people expected. You know what? They're going to beat Washington on Sunday. This 6.5 point spread, don't count the Giants out. And then I started to say, I kind of like when the Giants are flying under the radar, nobody's giving them a chance. And I kind of like that. And I felt like this prior to, me seeing these takes. But once we got to yesterday, I was like, we'll see what happens. And everybody that picked the Giants, everybody that thought the Giants were gonna upset Washington, you look foolish, and including this guy. And also coupled with the fact that I thought Russell Wilson would go out there and play a decent game. He did not. It's over. It's over. I've seen enough. That game I've seen enough. There is nothing redeeming from that game where I could say, you know what, Russ deserves another game. Nothing. Like, had the Giants lost a competitive game, you lose 24-21, something like that. All right, Russ has, passes for a little over 200, has a couple of TDs. All right, yeah, we'll give Russ another game. But gave you nothing. There was nothing from that game where I could say Russ deserves to play next week. He does not. But I guess, Brian Daboll, he owes it to Russ. Look, Russ is the starter. Okay. Well, you're going to see more of what you saw yesterday against Dallas. You're going to be playing from behind against Dallas. Good luck guarding CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Good luck. Because it's going to be a long game for you. It's going to be a long game. Again, that's how fast I completely flipped. Because you know what? I should have known better. A lot of people should have known better. This team just doesn't have it. Doesn't have it. And let's see what. Hopefully Jaxson Dart is the answer. But you could look at the Giants and say they could definitely ruin this guy too. They could definitely ruin this guy. If I'm Jaxson Dart, I'm requesting a trade. No. Yeah. That worries me. What worries me is they are going to ruin him. They are going to ruin him. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. But that was not the right start for the Giants that they needed, that this regime needed. Because if this continues, the calls for them to lose their jobs are going to get louder and louder and louder. And they're already loud after just one game. And John Mara, too. They are all going to hear it from the fans. They are all going to hear it. It's long year, man. Long year is coming for Big Blue. It is not going to be. It's not going to be a good year. Not good. I mean, we already knew that. I thought they'd be competitive. It's still only one game. But if they're going to play like that every single week, I'd be very surprised if they win, more than 3 or 4 games again. It was horrible. So, yeah, complete opposite of what the Jets showed on offense. And, they were getting there. I mean, again, the pass rush for the Giants, did get after Jane Daniels. But also, I mean, the defense, too. I forgot to mention this. This soft zone coverage that they're running, they're letting these guys, giving these guys so much cushion on the Commanders. And, again, drops were a problem for the Commanders yesterday. If they weren't dropping certain passes, if Terry McLaurin and Jane Daniels hit on that long pass, I mean, this game is more than just 21-6. But the defense, what is this coverage that they're running? These guys are open. I mean, they are just letting them get everything underneath. because they don't want to. They don't want to give up the big plays, I guess. But it's just, I mean, the Commanders are like, all right, we'll take it. Jane Daniels scrambling all over the place. Yeah, we'll take it. Not good. Not good. And you know what, give the Commanders credit too. I mean, like I said, the offensive line was horrendous for the Giants, but Commanders made moves to improve that defensive line, and that defensive line was getting pressure. So, Commanders win 21-6. Not what you wanted if you were a Giant fan. And we'll kind of do a quick little whip around of the other games as well around the league. We had a dramatic finish in Atlanta between the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield connecting with Emeka Egbuka, first round draft choice out of Ohio State for the go ahead touchdown. Falcons actually got into field goal range, and the Bucs actually they get the touchdown, they miss the extra point. Falcons get into field goal range. Younghoe Koo misses the field goal at the end of the game to tie it, and the Bucs end up getting a win. Michael Penix played pretty well yesterday. Passed for over almost 300 yards, had a touchdown in this game. Bijan Robinson had a huge receiving touchdown early on in the game. Actually, the Falcons really could not run they really couldn't run the football in this game. Bijan only had 24 yards on the ground, but like I said, had that huge receiving touchdown. Kyle Pitts had 7 receptions for 59 yards. Drake London got hurt in this game, so we got to keep an eye on his status. The offensive line was a bit of an issue for the Bucs because they're missing Tristan Wirfs. Got to get him back. Baker Mayfield, I mean, the numbers, he did throw 3 touchdowns, but he went 17 to 32 for 167 yards. Bucs really couldn't run the football well yesterday, but Egbuka ended up being their leading receiver with 2 touchdowns. Bucky Irving had a receiving touchdown in this game. Mike Evans only had 5 for 51 in this game. 1 sack of Michael Penix. But yeah, listen, Bucs get off to a really good start because last year, remember, they got swept by the Falcons. So, but yeah, the Falcons and Michael Penix, let's see what they do the rest of the way. But, good start for Penix, just, on the losing end, unfortunately. I brought up Daniel Jones. I mean, the Colts didn't punt yesterday. He finished with 272 yards, 22 of 29, 1 touchdown, no picks. Had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. The Colts ran the ball for 156 yards and 2 tutties. I can't believe I said 2 tutties. 2 touchdowns. Michael Pittman had 6 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. Tua Tagovailoa, not a good game. Had a fumble in this game, had 2 interceptions. They put in Zach Wilson to finish this game. That's how poor the Dolphins were yesterday, and Tyreek Hill was not happy on the sidelines. What a disaster of a start for the Dolphins. Jaguars get off to a good start, 26-10 over the Panthers. Bryce Young didn't look very good. Travis Etienne had a very good game, had over 140 yards on the ground. Travis Hunter played, I think, only 6 snaps on defense, but he had 6 receptions for 33 yards. Brian Thomas Jr. had a rushing touchdown in this game. Little end-around play. This game got delayed for a bit, but yeah, it finished up. Jaguars won 26-10. The Bengals got the win over the Browns. Again, the Browns could have won this game if not for a missed extra point and missed field goal by their young kicker. And they parted ways with Dustin Hopkins. They give this young guy a chance, and he did not get the job done. I can't even. What's his name? Schmidt. Anyways, yeah, 1 for 2 in field goals, 1 for 2 in extra points. That was the difference in the game. Flacco threw a pick at the end, had a couple of picks, and one of them it went off the hands of a receiver. So yeah, that was costly. Joe Burrow, very, very pedestrian performance by him, if you even want to call it that. 14 to 23, 113 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, first game off of their new contracts. T. Higgins was their leading receiver, 33 yards. Chase only had 26. Noah Fant had a receiving touchdown. Chase Brown had a touchdown. But yeah, look, Bengals got the win. That's the important thing for them. Cardinals won 20 to 13. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a good game. A couple of touchdowns by Kyler Murray. Saints are not very good. They're not going to win a lot of games. Rough game for Bo Nix. They got the win 20 to 12, but Bo Nix did not look good yesterday. 2 picks. I think did he also have a fumble in this game? Yeah, he had a fumble in this game. He had 3 turnovers in this game. Cam Ward actually didn't look that bad. Him and Calvin Ridley, couldn't really. Ridley had some drops in this game. This was a tough spot for Cam Ward. They had a chance. They had a chance, but Broncos have a very good defense. And it doesn't get any easier for Cam Ward because him and the Titans are going to be going up against the Rams next week. So 49ers got the win 17-13. George Kittle left the game early with the hamstring. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks for Purdy. McCaffrey had a lot of touches in this game. Ricky Pearsall was their leading receiver. Joey Bosa Purdy had the play of the game on offense at the end. Bosa had the play of the game on defense at the end. Purdy had that touchdown to the backup tight end. That was Jake Tongs. He had the go ahead touchdown, which I don't know how that didn't get intercepted. The 2 picks Purdy had were not good. And then Nick Bosa gets the sack fumble recovery of Sam Darnold to win the game. And it looked like Seattle was going to win it at the end because that was set up by a huge play by Jackson Smith and Jigba. But, Darnold in his debut with the Seahawks, only 150 yards passing. Zach Charbonnet hit a rushing touchdown in this game. So, look, 49ers defense, with Bosa healthy, still a good unit, But, they were able to get the win. But George Kittle probably going to be out. Juwan Jennings and Kittle are getting MRIs. Jennings, I think, on his shoulder, Kittle on his hamstring, so they could be out for multiple games. 49ers are really shorthanded at the receiver spot. And then Packers all over the Lions, man. I mean, the Lions really miss Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I mean, oh, man. Jared Goff did not look good yesterday. They couldn't really run the football. Jordan Love looked healthy. 2 touchdowns in this game. Josh Jacobs ran the ball effectively. Packers defense really got after Jared Goff. They finished with 4 sacks. Micah Parsons played a limited amount of snaps, but he was making plays for himself. He finished with the sack. Rashawn Gary had a sack and a half. Packers looked really good. That defense looked really good. That was a statement win for them. Remember, they went 1-5 against this division last year, and already they're 1-0. So already off to a better start than last year. So 27-13 they win against the Lions. They didn't have a touchdown until the fourth quarter, and that was to the rookie Tesla, who made a one-handed catch, very impressive catch at the end. So Packers get the win there. They get off to a good start, and then the Rams win a very low-scoring game against the Texans, 14-9. Both defenses played pretty well, forcing some turnovers. The Rams had 3 sacks, C.J. Stroud. And then for the Texans, they had 3 sacks of Matthew Stafford. Stafford made some plays. C.J. Stroud did not have a good game. 188 yards passing, no touchdowns, and a pick. Nick Chubb was the leading rusher. Texans got issues on that offensive line. I mean, their defense is good, but that offense is still dealing with the problems they had last year. Especially when you're going up against this defensive front for the Rams, who are my Super Bowl pick. So they get off to a good start. Puka Nacua got banged up in this game, but he was able to come back, and he finished, I think, with 130 yards in this game. 130 yards. Devontae Adams had 4 for 51. Kyron Williams had a touchdown. Rams 1-0 on the season. They take on the Titans next week. For the Texans, they take on the Buccaneers. That's a doubleheader next Thursday, or next Monday night, I should say. And I actually did forget to mention, because this game was on Friday, we didn't get to talk about it, Chiefs-Chargers. This was a very good game. And this was a game that, the Chargers usually lose. But not this time. Xavier Worthy gets hurt on the very first, one of the very first or second play of the game. He gets clotheslined by Travis Kelce, shoulder injury. He's going to be out multiple weeks, I think. The Chiefs really couldn't run the football in this game. Hollywood Brown had a good game. Juju Smith-Schuster made plays. Kelce scored a touchdown on a broken coverage play. But Chargers come away with the win. Keenan Allen back with the Chargers. He looked like the Keenan Allen of old. Quentin Johnson had a couple of touchdowns in this game. But the big story, everybody, from Chiefs-Chargers is Justin Herbert. When Justin Herbert had to make a play, he made it. And not only with his arm, with his legs. On that 3rd and 14 to ice the game, that was a signature play by Herbert. Because, look, people, there's people that praise Herbert. There's people that tear down Herbert. He's definitely one of the more polarizing QBs in that regard, because there's like a split, because he's so talented, but he hasn't won anything. And he always falls against the Chiefs, just like a lot of other teams. But that play right there, that was a huge play to ice the game. Chargers get the win. Look, they got the coach and the quarterback, and they're going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. I think so, especially in year 2 of this system now, and now having Keenan Allen back, that just makes this team a lot better. And you figure Maurion Hampton's going to be able to run the football better as the year goes on, as he gets more acclimated to the speed of the NFL. And Najee Harris obviously dealt with the eye issue this offseason, but you figure you're going to get more production out of him too, as that being a tandem there. And the offensive line did a good job too, protecting Herbert despite Rashawn Slater being out. But yeah, that was a signature win for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And as for the Chiefs, man, look, Patrick Mahomes made some great plays, and still put together a decent outing. But look, the Chiefs to me, they just don't have a lot of dynamic players on offense, man. They just don't. And they're still going to be good. They're still going to be good, but it's not going to be easy for them this year. It's not, and it's not going to get any easier next week because we got the Super Bowl rematch next week. For the Chiefs, at least it's at home against the Eagles, but they could be 0-2 by the end of next week, and that's not Chiefs-like, to say the least. But for the Chargers, that was a great win for them, and they take on the Raiders next week, who won their game against the Patriots, which I actually didn't go over that game. Yeah, Raiders won 20-13. Geno Smith had a turnover in this game, but he played pretty well. Threw for over 350 yards, 362 yards. He finished with a touchdown to Trey Tucker. Brock Bowers at over 100 yards receiving. Aston Genty in his debut only had 38 yards on the ground, but he did have a touchdown. The Raiders defense got to Drake May 4 times, forced a couple of turnovers. Drake May was not very good. Did finish with almost 300 yards passing. Patriots really didn't run the football effectively. Kashawn Boutte had a good game, over 100 yards receiving. Patriots defense did get to Geno Smith 4 times, but they come up short. They are 0-1. So yeah, Chargers will be taking on the Raiders next week, and then as for the Patriots, they're taking on the Dolphins. So that's going to be an interesting game. See how that goes. But that's week 1, everybody. That's week 1. So there's definitely overreactions. Some not so overreactions, but look, it's only 1 week. Still a lot to learn. So hope you guys enjoyed that recap. It took a little over an hour. But make sure, everybody, to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever you get your podcasts, just look us up, Infinite Sports, and you can listen to us as well. If you don't want to watch, you can listen. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Forgot to mention, J.J. McCarthy against Caleb Williams. I think the Vikings win a close one tonight. So we'll see what happens. So I'm really curious to see how that goes, and we'll talk about that game tomorrow if we get to it. But as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.